this talk I prepared about a year back. Race between mind and machine, how computers and brain are racing with each other. And can machine acquire consciousness? Can machines replace us? So, before I go into this, I'll very quickly rush through my own life journey and how I got into brain. I'm a physics person. When I was in school, in class 8, 9 and so on, I wanted to become a particle physicist. When I went to college, I started to work, become an astrophysicist, working on black holes and so on. When I actually started doing research, I started working on nuclear fusion, as I mentioned in the introduction. So basically, from universe, I came down to sun, because as you know that nuclear fusion is the process by which sun produces energy. And as was mentioned, I worked my first 9 years after coming back to India was a science institute of nuclear physics, where I got this machine, which is referred to as tokamak, or the nuclear fusion experimental reactor, to work. And I was a modeling person, but I got into experiments, and N.K. Mukhopadhyay sitting here was head of cyclotron center, helped me a lot in this process as to model a lot of things. So we were successful to get this to come to international standard. Then I was invited to come to the Institute for Plasma Research, which is the main nuclear fusion center in the country, and a reactor that was not working there, Aditya, for 6 years. When I got a chance, within 5 days, it started to work. So this was my nuclear fusion work. Then I moved to university and started to work on India's moon mission, Chandrayaan 2, for example. So from universe to sun to moon. And I was working on trying to detect water on the moon. I'll not go into details of this. And then this was something which was, I was designing a system which will do all the experiments after the Chandrayaan 2 lands on the moon. And the rover will do all the experiments through the single system. I'll not go into details again. And then from sun to moon, I came down to Earth, started working in agriculture, started to work on wildlife, tracking wildlife. Again, I'll not go into detail, different kind of activities of tracking wildlife. And then I moved to body. So from sun to moon to earth to body. So I started to work on problems of disability, especially severe disability. For example, this work I did to help those people who cannot move their fingers, they cannot press the remote control button, how they can watch TV. So that's how I started. I used gesture to actually do this. And we developed this system. You can see the children trying it out. This was one device, and then another device. And then we gave it to users. And you can see these people who cannot even sit. They love to watch cricket. And they could control the channel by themselves. And again, I will not go into details of this. And then many people came to me with different requirements. They said, why you need to manage other things, light, fan, computer, air conditioner system, and so on and so forth. And then people came to me who said that I don't have hand, I don't have legs, I don't have voice, can you do something for me? So I said that let's focus on the ability of the person and make sure that whatever the ability of the person, the technology should help them be functional, realize that they should be self-dependent. So you see the left side, I said that okay, let me work on all of this. So start with hand, leg movement, head movement, voice, eye movement, right leg, facial expressions, conscious thought, muscle movement, and few other things. And then use different technologies. The green one that you see are the ones where we developed in the lab and given to users. Yellow means we have done in the lab, not given to users. The BCI part that you see here, brain-computer interface, is the one which I use to actually develop communication systems and control systems for people who could not communicate by any other means. They did not have hand movement, they did not have voice. So I worked on brain-computer interface about 5 years back and developed that. So that's how I got into brain. I'll leave out this part. So this is how my entry into brain happened. Now, why a person who was like me, who was not trained at all in brain research, and I'm not an expert at all even now, could do this work? So one of the reasons this has happened is that probing the mind, as I say, has spread out of labs and hospitals. Just like in 1980s, the computers came out of labs and sophisticated labs into hands of people. When I came back in 86 in Calcutta, I had a PC with me that I brought from US. Now, one of the reasons we interacted with N.K. Mukhopadhyay, N.K. as you know, was that my knowledge of computer was helping him in develop the cyclotron centers, computer facility, and so on. So we used to interact there. So that time the computer had just come out of hands from the labs into hand of people at low cost. Similarly, same thing has happened today. The EEG machines, which allow you to probe mind in some sense, has moved out of labs and it's become very less costly and easy to use. For example, this is something that was being used in lab. I will use something like this. You can see this child studying while something is being monitored. You can see this girl wearing this as if it's a fashionable item. Each of this is monitoring your EEG, and this becoming very easy to use and cheaper meant that anybody could start to use it. For example, an artist could combine this with helmet and make an artistic helmet which allows you to soothe your mind. It relaxes your mind if you wear this. Similarly, you can see that a 3D printed helmet which changes its shape and the color based on your mood and so on. Okay. This is all happening because this is no longer in the hands of experts. It is non-experts like me who could decide to use it. There are hackathons being organized where you hack the brain of a person, you influence the brain of the person. For example, one of the hackathon team one that could induce a person to lucid dreaming phase where you're aware of what you're dreaming. My own effort, as I said that I'm a non-expert. Okay. Now my main interest was to help people, persons with disability. For example, this gentleman who was Ahmedabad MBA, I had developed a system and I came across him after a few months who had a brainstem stroke at 1999, the age of 32. He lost he graduated from IIM Ahmedabad, the best IIM in the country, in 93. So after about 6 years of that, he had a brainstem stroke, he lost his voice, he lost his head movement, lost his leg movement. He could not communicate by any means except blink of his eyes. He had no means to communicate except blink of his eyes. He can hear, he can see, so he can take input, but he had no way to express. It is also called locked-in syndrome. So only eye movement, eye blink was there. So what I did was to make him operate computer, for example, you will see this video, was that I gave him a headset which will monitor his head movement. So when he moves left, right, up, down, the mouse cursor of the computer is being controlled by his head movement. And then I give him on screen keyboard. Whichever character he wants to type A, he moves his head, takes the cursor there, and blinks his eyes. The eye blink is mapped to left mouse click, so it is as if he is moving the cursor and clicking the mouse, but all doing is head movement and eye blink. The eye blink was being recognized by the EEG waves that he is wearing. So he started type. You see, he just now type J, if you can see what he's trying to type, his wife's name, his wife's name is Jayashree. Jaya in short form, he was trying to type Jaya. Those 4 letters took him 3 to 4 minutes to type because he could not keep his head stationary. He had not used this thing for 13 years. For the first time after 13 years when he was typing, what he did was to type his wife's name, and that shows the fact that he was dependent on his wife for 13 years. So he started type. The next day we showed him how he could control other things like light, TV and so on. What you will notice in this video is actually, you will see that there's a bulb here. He's controlling that light bulb with the blink of his eyes. And you can see the happiness on his face. This is what I say, the science and technology can bring happiness on life of, in the smile on the face of people. And that's very important for us to do that. Most of the time we're busy trying to enhance our CV, that how many papers I get and so on. But really the science and technology is actually to improve the quality of life of people and make each one of us happy. Literally about this, we improve the system and so on. The second thing that I've been trying to do, must mention this, it's not as successful, but some of you can make it successful. It's trying to get people to communicate who are in a vegetative state. Vegetative state means absolutely no communication. Nobody knows what's going on. It's almost like they're alive, but they're dead. So nobody knows what's going on. What I'm trying to do is to look at their brain activity in real time and trying to see if I can correlate what I'm saying to them, whether the brain is responding in a coherent way. And then we can get them to say yes and no. I have not been successful, but I don't have time now to do it. Some of you can take this up. If you're interested, you can contact me. Now the developments that are taking place, for example, this gentleman could not move his fingers because of paralysis. Now it's been possible that technology is coming up where you bypass the neural system and directly make the fingers move by connecting the brain through wireless links or through wires by bypassing the normal nervous system and making the fingers. I don't have video here, but I could have shown you this person who was not able to move his finger. It's possible to do it. You can see this gentleman, both his hands are being controlled, prosthetic arms are being controlled by mind. The spinal cord is still the spinal cord. So a lot of paralysis that people who have injury, the spinal cord gets injured and their body part movement, other things is affected, wherever depending on at what level it happens. Now, stretchable spinal cord implants are coming, and hopefully in the near future it may be possible to bypass some of the spinal cord activity through these systems. This is a thought control wheelchair that monkey is driving. Similarly, Samsung is coming out with something where the phone will warn you about possible attack that you might have by monitoring your EEG activity. And similarly, there are brain-computer interfaces wireless that can be implanted and you are connected to computer. Many nations are launching mega projects. I will not go into details, but the purpose is to get down to neuron levels and monitor the neural activity. Now, each human being has about 80 to 100 billion neurons. You can imagine that in small thing, 80 to 100 billion neurons, we are trying to actually look at each neural activity. This is the kind of activity that's been going on. I'll leave out the details. Today it's become possible also to look at some of the small moving insects and so on and monitor the neural activity while they're moving. So it's become important earlier to fix them. Now, it's been possible to modify mind in some ways. Neuroplasticity is something that was not accepted in Western science. That means the fact that the brain can be modified after few years of birth. Normally it was thought that once the brain is developed to some extent, after you cannot do anything. But in the way Eastern thought, it was always there that by meditation and so on, actually you can change yourself. Now the Western science is also accepting this. Buddhist practices have focused on this, for example, gamma waves. So you have alpha, beta, theta, delta. Beta is the processing stage, higher frequency stage. Delta is the deep sleep stage, lowest frequency stage. But Buddhist monks can go into gamma waves stage also, which is even higher frequency stage. But this has to be done by untrained mind cannot go. Person like you, untrained, cannot go into that stage. So this we have practiced for thousands of years. My own experience, I wanted to look at, can I identify learning disability in a child by using the brain probes, EEG waves, for example. I went through a paper which told me that if I can measure beta 1, which is a subset of beta waves, and theta, beta 1 to theta ratio. Beta 1 is like processing capability of the brain is showing, and theta is like noise in the brain. If that is lower, it's like signal to noise. If there's too much noise in the brain, you're not able to learn properly, or you don't have proper processing capability. This ratio, if it is lower, then the child may have learning disability. That means I can probe the mind and tell whether the child has learning disability or not. The second question that came to mind that if I can do this, can actually improve the learning capability of a child. So I went through literature and actually learned something called brainwave entrainment or neurofeedback, where by giving audiovisual stimulus externally, I can control the brain and improve the learning capability of the child. And then I realized also that yoga, pranayama, kundalini, chakra and so on that we talk about in our traditional knowledge and practices, they also control the brain in their own ways. They may be efficient somewhere, they may be inefficient somewhere, but all of these are part of traditional knowledge that we have done for thousands of years. So in addition to helping children, I started to help adults with depression, insomnia, migraine and so on, because I saw that I could give a sound wave and that could put a person to good sleep. All of you can try this. Or a child who is not able to learn properly could start to learn better by listening to a particular sound. Okay. Now don't rush to be the young people that are trying to say that I want to get good better in exams. But those who have problems, you can approach me definitely. Now, some of the young people will remember, young and old probably, that you might have been given this punishment in the schools to do sit-ups by holding it, right? I don't know whether it's now allowed in the schools or not, but in olden times this was a common practice. Surprisingly, it is not a punishment. It is not a punishment at all. Actually, now you know what it's called? It's called SUPERBRAIN yoga. People pay money to learn how to hold ears into sit-ups. What is unfortunate is that this was something part of our traditional knowledge for thousands of years we knew. It was an exercise to improve the brain. The exercise to improve the brain, you're supposed to hold your ears like this, cross, thumb out. While you're sitting, you inhale, wait for 3 seconds. While you're getting up, exhale. This is an exercise that can help you improve your concentration, your focus, and improve your learning capability. So this was actually exercise given to young children, students who are weak so that they can improve their brain and perform better. But we forgot over hundreds of years why we are doing this. And eventually we thought that it's a punishment, it's become insult, that today holding here has become a punishment, but actually it is something that is an exercise to improve brain. Today in Japan and US, people have done this activity, they have monitored the brain, and they found that it is extremely good. And you will see that people, they go to hospital and doing these sit-ups. And so I request all of you to actually do this exercise and don't think of it as a punishment, and you will be happy if your teacher does this to you. The second thing that is very important today, because of these tools that we have now, it's possible to actually look at our traditional knowledge, like the one I described, and actually monitor them and make sure that what we have been doing is right, wrong, can we improve it. Just to give an example, for example, if those of you are aware of Ayurveda, is a punch current. Punch current is actually carried out, you do a Shirodhara, you drop oil and so on. I've been trying to see if I can work and monitor the brain as this activity is going on. But I'm not going into details of this. There are supplements that you've been aware that, for example, Brahmi has been there, which allows you to improve your memory and so on. But there are drugs, cognition-enhancing drugs that were developed to actually help children with problems. These are being misused, abused to gain temporarily, but it can have serious side effects. So I would request that don't get into this in case you come across this. Other thing that I learned a technique to clean my inner organs. I had a problem with the gallbladder stone I had, there was a lot of pain. I learned a technique to remove the gallbladder stones without any surgery. And then I realized that actually, not only I can remove the stones from gallbladder, actually I can clean my inner organs, gallbladder, liver, kidney, colon, following a process that a German book was there based on Ayurveda. That book, when I went through in detail, I found that cleaning the inner organs leads to curing of hundreds of problems, diseases and so on. So I've been trying to actually promote this, and a lady with severe mental disorder who could not give exam for 15 years because she could not retain his memory, I was helping her through brainwave entrainment. About 3 years back, I suggested her that can you try this out, not knowing how to help her. I did not know how to help her. I keep telling everybody to do this. What was surprised that when 3 years back, when she did this naturopathic exercise of cleaning her inner organs, gallbladder, liver, she was cured of the severe mental disorder that she had for 15 years. Her memory and everything came back, she started giving exam. 15 years she filled twice, she used to fill the form for chartered accountant CA exam. 30 times she filled the form, she could not give exam. After doing this process, she could start to do everything by herself. And in fact, now she's written a book, she's going to launch it very shortly, she's setting up a trust and so on. So then I realized that actually inner hygiene is extremely important for us. And I'll leave out these other things. And I know why you're laughing because brain-to-brain transfer of language is taking place here. But you laugh because you thought it's not possible, right? It looks like a science fiction or a movie. Now look at this. You can pop a pill and learn the language. Now who is telling this? Nicholas Negroponte, who is director of MIT Media Lab. He was giving a talk, the 30 years, he's a futurist. 30 years back, what he had told about what had happened. And he went on to describe each of the things he had predicted and where do we stand today. And at the end of this, he said that today I'm predicting that it's possible that you can pop a pill and learn the language. So you may not have to go through this process, but you can pop a pill and actually learn a language. And so this is something very serious. So what you thought PK is showing is in terms of language transfer can be done in other ways. And actually, you can see that it's maybe possible to download lessons in the brain. So all the students will be very happy that you don't have to study and they just put a pen drive and download the thing just before the exam. So in fact, actually you people have been doing this. When I used to give exam in 10th, for example, every day we had 2 exams. 5 days, 10 papers over. Now what you do, you have 3-4 days of gap. So just before the exam, you download things into your brain and forget about it. But things are happening in a different way. Let me come to the last part of my talk, how we're trying to put brain into computers and learn from brain how to design new computers. So if you look at in $1,000 a mobile phone, for example, or laptop, we already have the capability to have processing power equivalent to a mouse brain. It's expected that in the next 10 years, we'll have the processing power capable of a human brain. And then further down by 2050, we would have the single processor of $1,000 would have the capability of all human beings together on the earth, 9-10 billion brains, you put all of them together, you will have in your hand a mobile phone or a laptop would have that much capability. This is what is expected. If you look at the brain, you look at round world, only 302